Hello, my dear students. I am Dr.Prajna Mattihalli from Government First Grade College, Dharwad, Karnataka. Already I have discussed many important points about auditor, which is just a part of the subject principles and practice of auditing. As per Karnataka University syllabus, it is being discussed in fifth semester of BCom course, and even in general case we are supposed to know about the auditor. So in my earlier videos I have discussed many aspects, so please watch all those videos and give me the feedback. And today I'm going to discuss about the duties and liabilities of an auditor. Let us watch what are the interesting duties of the auditor. And here I am going to discuss about the duties first, and then let us go for the liabilities. Okay. Here, duties of company auditor are being classified into two, that is statutory duty and general duty. What are the statutory duties? Let us first look into it. The very word says you, it is statutory, means as per law, it is compulsory. Duty to make report to members of company. Then comes the duties to make enquiries. So why he has to make report to members of company? Because he is being appointed by the members of the company. They are the owners. So it is his duty to give them the report. Duty to make enquiries means whenever he feels something fishy, suspicious, he has to make enquiries and take the truth. Duty to give a statement in prospectus. As you know very well, our auditor is appointed, first auditor especially is appointed just when company is getting formed. And when the registration is over, first stage is in the formation of company is promotion, and next stage is registration. Just after the registration, first appointmenter, first auditor will be appointed by the board of directors. Therefore, now he has to look into the matters of capital subscription as a third stage, and then fourth stage, commencement of business. Here in all these two stages, he has to be very careful about all the aspect. And for the sake of capital subscription, while issuing the shares, company prepares the prospectus. And in the prospectus, he has to give the statement. It is his duty, because shareholders are going to believe the statements in the prospectus. So it should be certified by him. He has to give the statement in the prospectus. Duty to certify the statutory report. When the company is fully formed, now it is working. Just after completion of 1 year, statutory meeting is compulsory for each and every public company. In the statutory meeting, statutory report should be read. It is prepared by the directors, but it should be signed by the auditor, because he has to look into it, he has to go through it, and if anything is not true, he should object it. So for its truthfulness, for its fairness, the statutory report should be certified by the auditor. In the same way, every year after completion of the auditing work, every auditor has to give the auditor's report. That will be read in the general meeting. In that report, everything should be true and fair. Therefore, he has to sign it just to certify it that it is correct, it is fair. And in the same way, duty to comply with directives of central government. That means central government gives directions in the form of directives, and he has to follow it. He has to comply with it. And duty to certify declaration of solvency of company. So whether company is solvent or not, it has to certify, it has to give the declaration. In few cases, in peculiar cases, company will be compelled to declare about its solvency. Once again, the company statement will be reliable only when auditor gives the certificate for it. So he has to certify that the solvency of company is right, it is correct. Duty to assist inspectors and investigators if they are appointed, if they are undertaking the investigation work, then he has to assist them. Duty to assist central government in prosecution. So if central government is in the court of law, then it needs some help. In such a situation, it is the duty of the auditor to assist the central government, because he knows everything about the company. He is as good as a family doctor of the company in financial aspect. Therefore, his truthfulness is held in the court of law. Therefore, court believes him and he has to assist. Duty to make a report on public deposits. If there are any public deposits, once again, public interest should be protected and he has to give the report about it. So all these duties were statutory duties. As I have already mentioned, they are called as statutory duties. And now let us understand what are the general duties. Duty to exercise reasonable care and skill. If he doesn't exercise reasonable care and skill, then it becomes negligency. Therefore, he has to apply reasonable care while doing the auditing work. Duty to check accuracy of accounts, whether accounts are accurate or not, whether arithmetical accuracy is followed, whether statistical accuracy is followed, whether the accounts are maintained truly or rightly. That should be checked by the auditor. Duty to satisfy himself about securities. How many securities are there? What type of securities are there? To what extent he is secured? He has to take care of it. Duty to scrutinize the debentures. What type of debentures are there? Whether they are redeemable, whether they are convertible, whether they are going to be repaid within near future. So he has to scrutinize all the debentures. Duty to verify the investments. Once again, what type of investments are there? What are the return on the investments? So everything he has to check. Duty to report to the shareholders, because he is being appointed by the shareholders. So he has to give the report to them. In every annual general meeting, he has to read his auditor's report. He has to circulate the auditor's report, and all the shareholders are believing his report. They are relying upon it. So they can understand the company just by reading his report. Therefore, it is his duty to give the report. Duty to verify the assets. So books of accounts reveal the assets, but whether what is shown in the accounts are in reality or not. So physically, assets should be verified. Their market value, their book value should be compared. Their depreciation should be analyzed, assessed, and land, building, machines, everything should be verified physically. Duty to check the stock, whether stock is there or not, whether it is true or not, whether stock shown in the books are real or not. Duty to practice as auditor only if qualified. He must possess the qualification. In my earlier videos, I have discussed about the qualities and qualifications of the auditor also, wherein I have mentioned that he has to go through the examinations which are conducted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. That is called as CA exams. He should pass the CA exams, then only he is called as qualified auditor. Otherwise, though he has got the knowledge, he is not qualified. He cannot practice as an auditor. He can be the assistant. He can be the clerk, he can be an employee, but he cannot practice as an auditor if he doesn't possess the qualification. Duty to be a watchdog and not a bloodhound. That means he has to watch everything, he has to verify everything, whether the principles of accounting is followed or not, whether all the accounts are maintained properly or not, whether there is accuracy or not, whether it is fair or not. He should watch everything just like a watchdog. But he should not a bloodhound, means he should not be prejudiced. He should not be suspicious unnecessarily. He should not act as a suspicious and bloodhound. That means bloodhound means a ferocious dog which follows other animals, and without any reason it just bites and harms the other animal just out of its ferociousness. So he should not be a bloodhound, just he has to be a watchdog in his duty. Duty not to adopt foul means for appointment. Just for the sake of his appointment, he should not make any foul means. Duties arising out of professional etiquette. Just because of his professionality, there will be some etiquettes and he has to maintain all kind of duties. So now let us understand the liabilities. Liabilities are a big list. It is a big list. And here, civil liabilities, criminal liabilities, contractual liabilities, statutory liabilities, and liabilities for the third parties and the unlawful acts, and also the liability towards the audit clerk. So like this, there are many liabilities. First thing is civil liability is of two types. That is the civil liability for negligence and civil liability for misfeasance. First, let us understand what is the civil liability for negligence. The very word says you that it is the less carefulness is negligence. So auditor is appointed to perform many duties. If as an agent, he doesn't exercise reasonable care and skill in the performance of his duties for which he is employed by the client, then it is called as the liability for negligence. In the same way, for misfeasance means, what is misfeasance? It is improper performance of a lawful act or doing a lawful act in an unlawful manner. So he is doing lawful act but in unlawful manner. That is called as misfeasance. If he does any misfeasance act, then it means a breach of trust or duty imposed by law. In such a situation, auditor does not uh, if wrongfully he does something and his duties resulting in a financial loss to the company, then he is guilty of misfeasance. He will be held responsible for it. These two things are about the civil liabilities, and then comes the criminal liability. It arises out of an act constituting a crime, that is offense. What is the offense? Misrepresentation of facts, falsification of facts and figures, issue of false certificates, making false statements, destruction of vouchers, bills, receipts, or doing of any other act which is criminal act. So these are all called as crime, and in such a situation, he will be held responsible for the same. This is called as criminal liability. That means in any case, the auditor should not do the crime. Crime means false statements and falsification of figures, issue of false certificate, or destruction of voucher, bill, receipts. He should not do so. In case if he does so, then auditor is punishable with fine and also imprisonment. What are the criminal liabilities? For misstatements in prospectus? As I have already mentioned, prospectus is a very important document. The facts in the prospectus will be read by the shareholders and they believe it, they rely upon it, and they invest their money in the form of share capital. Therefore, if anything misstatements are given in the prospectus, it is a crime. According to Section 63 of the Indian Companies Act, it is a crime. For fraudulently inducing persons to invest money, if he is advertising about the investment that in a fraudulent manner, then it is a fraud according to section 68. For non-compliance, if he is not following the rules and regulations, if he is against the law, then according to section 227 and 229, he is a criminal for the same. And for failure to assist investigation, while studying about the duties, we read that he has to assist for the investigation and the inspection. He has to assist. If he doesn't do so, it is a crime and it is under section 240 an offense. For failure to assist prosecution, I have mentioned it in duties. It is the duty of the auditor to assist the central government in case of prosecution. If he doesn't do so, it's a liability, that is criminal liability according to section 242 of Indian Companies Act. For failure to return property, if he is having any property of the company, while doing the audit work, there may be some properties with him. So he has to return it. Otherwise, what happens? Books of accounts or any papers, property, if he is not returning, it's a crime. According to section 477, he will be punishable. What about the public examination by court? If it undertakes, then he is a criminal, and according to section 477, 478, he will be held responsible. For falsification of books, if he writes the books in a falsification manner, then according to section 539, it is a crime. Prosecution of auditor, if auditor is held responsible according to section 545, it is a crime. According to the contract, there will be some liabilities. It arises out of the contracts, agreement between the auditor and the client. There will be a contract between them. When the auditor is appointed, and the client and the auditor will be having a contract in between them. So according to that, what he is supposed to do, and if he doesn't do so, it is a contractual liability. Such agreements must be in writing and must lay down the terms and conditions relating to his duties, responsibilities, and scope of audit work in clear words. Otherwise, no contractual liability. If it is in oral, no contractual liability. It must be in writing, that too it's in clear terms. Then we can make the auditor as responsible for it. And statutory liabilities. Statute means special acts. So all those special acts give some liabilities. These arise because of the provisions of the various statutes, such as Indian Companies Act, Chartered Accountancy Act, Indian Income Tax Act. All these are statutes and they give some due liabilities to the auditor. And who are these third parties? Liabilities towards the third parties means there are many people like bankers, creditors, debenture holders, prospective shareholders, income tax authorities. These all are called as third parties. And they take the advantage of accounts of a company audited. They believe auditor's report. They believe audited accounts. So if anything happens, the liability will be of three types. Liability for negligence, liability for fraud, liability for libel. Let us understand one after the one in detail. Liability for negligence means what here? Auditor should exercise reasonable care and skill in giving his opinion to any person to whom he is under no contractual obligation to do so. As I have mentioned you, that is third parties are there and they believe in the accounts. So auditor should be very careful in writing his report. If he fails to do so and the person suffers any financial loss, auditor may be held liable for damages. Any banker, financial institutions, any taxing authorities, if they suffer any financial loss because of the auditor statement, then he is held responsible. And what is liability for fraud? The third parties can hold the auditor liable in case if any fraud has been committed by him and They can even sue him, even though there is no contractual obligation between the two. Because these third parties directly, they are not having any contract between the auditor, but they are depending upon his audited statements. They are believing the audited accounts. Therefore, even they can sue him for fraud. Liability for libel means sometimes it may so happen that an auditor in his work may find it necessary to criticize the actions of few officers of the company. Officers of the company's actions, he felt that he has to criticize it. He should submit his report in such a way that no grounds is left for libel or defamation. And if he makes use of certain words, afterwards, these officers of the company, they may go with a defamation case. It is called as libel. So he should not use such a condition, some words, and he should write his report very carefully. And there should not be any ground left out for defamation. You should be very careful about it. And what is this unlawful acts of client? Client may do some fraud. If it is known to the auditor, he should not support the client. Auditor may get some information about the unlawful acts or defaults committed by his client. He must not do anything to assist. He must not indulge in it. And he must not do anything assist his client to commit any criminal offense, because he will also be a criminal in such a situation. He must act very carefully and cautiously. Otherwise, he will be held responsible. And how about the article clerks? They are working under the auditor. They are the clerks. They are the assistants of the auditor. If he does not act honestly with the clerk, it's his liability. If he dismiss any clerk without any prior notice, then also it is a liability. If he does not return the amount of premium taken from the clerk, then also it is an offense. If he gives false certificate of returning the amount of premium, even then it is an offense. So even the accounting clerks, they can hold the auditor, they can hold the auditor as responsible. Liability of honorary auditor. So sometimes we feel that auditor is appointed, then only he is held responsible. If he is honorary auditor, he may not be in a position to be liable, but it is not so. There is no difference between the liability of a paid auditor and liability of an honorary auditor. Honorary auditor means auditor who is appointed not for the payment, just for a meager amount called honorarium. He is much liable for negligence or misfeasance or misconduct as a paid auditor. So if you think of from the point of view of liability, both are same. The honorary auditor and paid auditor, both are same as far as liability is concerned. He cannot be relieved of his duty on the ground that his agreement with client was not supported by any consideration. He cannot say so. So liability of joint auditor. As you know very well, in a big business, sometimes a single auditor cannot undertake all auditing job. In such a situation, the firm will appoint many auditors jointly. They are called as joint auditors. But joint auditors should divide audit work between themselves. It's my responsibility, it's Mr. A's responsibility, it is Mr. B's responsibility. The clearly it should be divided among them. One joint auditor cannot be held responsible for the work done by others. When the clear-cut segregation is there, you have to ask the person whose responsibility it was. Client must be informed about the division of work, what the position he has taken, what portion of the responsibility is with Mr. A, what portion of responsibility is with Mr. B. So it should be conveyed, it should be communicated to the client clearly. Final audit report have to be prepared jointly. Each and everyone is responsible for it. Each of the joint auditors will be responsible for his work. Therefore, we have to take care of it. And how about the local auditors? Who are the local auditors? If a large concern has several branches and these branches appoint local auditors to audit their accounts, then head office auditor will not be liable for the audit work done by local auditors. So take one example. A company is having branches even in with different nations, and even in India it has got thousands together branches, and we can't expect a single auditor to audit each and everything. In such a situation, what happens? One auditor will be appointed to look after the HO, that is head office, and local auditors will be appointed in each and every city, each and every state, or each and every nation to look after the audit of the particular branch. In such a situation, you cannot make the HO auditor responsible for the work because local auditors have undertaken the local audit. In his report, the HO auditor has to make clear that he had completely relied upon statements supplied by local auditors. So first, all the local auditors will undertake the work. They will send their report to the HO, and the head office auditor will undertake the auditing work by looking into these local reports of local auditors. So in his report, he mentions clearly that he is depending upon, is relying upon the audit work which is done by the local auditors. Therefore, what is the local auditor's liability? Now we have understood. So I hope it is clear for you. You have understood today's discussion, and let me conclude here with the statement that please watch all the videos so that you can understand every aspect of the principles and practice of the auditing, which is important not only for the sake of examination, but also for the sake of life. Even in day-to-day life, we need the knowledge about the auditor and auditing job. So, my dear friends, give me the feedback about my videos.